Hello, children. So now we've moved to the second part of the formal operational stage, which is between the age range 11 to 15. We've now moved to the part two, which is on the cognitive developmental changes. So now, of course, the adolescents have grown mentally also. There are a lot of changes there that they're feeling emotionally, psychologically, and mentally they've grown. And now the adolescents, in terms of their thought processes, they've become more logical. They've become very, very idealistic and abstract. So in terms of their own abstract thinking, now they can really make connections with the wider world, and they can think of some real some unreal concepts where each time maybe physical objects are not being thought about, and they can think about such abstract concepts, such unreal concepts, and that's what abstract thinking is all about. And they are really able to reason out now, becoming more logical and very, very idealistic. So now they have become quite capable of being able to really examine, their own thoughts, to really go deep into their own thoughts. And now also they can very well examine the thoughts of other people, and they feel that they can judge enough, in terms of what people are also thinking about them, and they have started to become highly conscious as well of that fact. So, of course, now they do have this ability to reason out well, and they are able to think with a new level of cognition, and with a new sense of social awareness, and so there's more of social awareness that's come into them. There is more of widening of their own thinking patterns, their own thought processes that have definitely widened. And when we talk about, of course, during this stage, particularly the adolescence, their thinking patterns have expanded, and now they can reason out very well. They can think of the abstract terms as well. And they can even go to an extent where they can think of the most ideal characteristics, which probably they would want to have in themselves, and they start comparing themselves to other people, and with people especially who have these kind of ideal characteristics. They start looking up to them, and they start really comparing those people with them, like even in terms of their own parents, like how adolescents start comparing that, how my friends have this kind of life, their parents are so cooperative, they let her be, and they don't question her so much, and like they understand her more. So such kind of questions, such kind of comparisons, they do bother the adolescents, so they start thinking of, for instance, of an ideal parent, and they start comparing that one ideal parent, so to say, with their own parents, and they have their own ideal standards set up, and like for themselves also, they are getting into this vicious circle of comparisons, and they do have this trial and error approach, where these adolescents, they make use of different courses of action. They take up different courses of action, possibly in order to solve situations, in order to come out of problems, and they do feel that, if certain things are happening with them, then why are they happening in that way only, and how can I actually come out of this situation, what are the possible solutions to this. So they do adopt this trial and error problem approach, and they do have this kind of a logical thinking, and Piaget has named it the hypothetical deductive reasoning. In terms of their own logical thought, if we come to see children, and we tend to understand, that they are not going by the so called social rules, you know. And for them, maybe their own moral thinking has become slightly even more flexible. Now they want to do things on their own way, and they also want to kind of come up with many other alternative moral courses, which probably may not be acceptable by the society, which probably could be against the social norms, the societal standards, but maybe to them it could be right, you know. And they want to take up some new options, and they want to decide on their own, when it comes to a personal code. Like for example, maybe we all know that smoking is injurious to health, it's not good, but still maybe an adolescent can get slightly influenced, when he or she sees everybody doing it, and this question can come to their mind that, whether should I or should I not, when everybody is, and maybe like whether it's okay to copy answers in the examinations, you know and also, like whenever there are rallies, or maybe whenever there are probably protest march or anything like that, we do see adolescents going right in the forefront and taking a stand, and they tend to also, in a way, not uh, adhere to the societal norms, but rather we see them breaking a lot of norms, and we see them also participating in many of these rallies and protest marches, etc. Because now they want to probably go with their own say. They want to decide um, on their own personal moral code, and their moral reasoning has definitely uh, shown great flexibilities there when we talk about their moral thinking, and they don't want to abide certain societal norms. So this kind of a phase also comes in the adolescence, which is right between especially this age range. Then we do have adolescents also battling with egocentrism. Of course, we know that it subsides. It is there in like really small children. We do see that egocentrism is prevalent in especially the pre-operational stage, and we actually saw it fading in the concrete operational stage. But now we do have a very different kind of a egocentrism witnessed in the adolescence. So we have these very important components of adolescence egocentrism. So the two components are the imaginary audience, and we have the personal fable. So imaginary audience is quite interesting because the adolescents usually are living with this belief that of course, they do are in a way quite occupied, with their own lives and into themselves, but also the other people are quite inquisitive about them. The other people are quite curious about them. So they actually feel that everybody is noticing them, everybody's eyeing them, and everybody's trying to observe them, and everybody's trying to take note of their behavior. you know and that's when, like if an adolescent girl by chance gets a pimple, because that actually happens also in the adolescence, and or maybe something drops on their t-shirt, or maybe they fall somewhere, so they feel that now everybody's looking at me, now everybody suddenly has started watching me. So that makes them even more conscious, so they do become extremely self-conscious at this stage. And of course, when we talk about personal fable, if we see, that's quite um, uh, all about, a sense of uniqueness, because here the adolescents, they feel that, nobody in the world understands them, you know and nobody really uh, bothers, or really cares about their feelings. So maybe, for instance, an adolescent girl can feel that, like, the kind of pain or the hurt that I'm going through, nobody can really imagine or can feel the same way or can understand what I'm going through, and like even with their parents, they do have this little not so pleasant conversations on this, where they tend to also tell their parents that, like, no, you don't understand me, and so they do have this kind of a sense of personal uniqueness, and where they tend to also weave stories, make stories, and they fantasize about those stories, and they have their own world, and which is probably far, far from realities. Of course, parents do care for us. There are people who can understand us, there are people who can sense our hurt, there are people who can show us the right way, but they are too much occupied. They are living with this belief. So that is what is a very, very prominent feature of the adolescence, and yeah, so that's what happens in adolescence. These two very important features of egocentrism, then coming to the logical thought, and how their minds have started evolving and growing psychologically. They have been started to develop, like in terms of their emotions also, and even in terms of their, like their own mind, how it begins to grow mentally, how they are growing. So all of that is what we have in the cognitive development. So we still have a portion of it left, which we will cover in the next recording. Thank you so much.